Last month, I finished building the world's first skiyak. My design is foolproof. The goal is to modify it so that I could actually turn and carve, and I nailed it. But the comments on part 1 of this video made it clear. You people think I'm an idiot.
Yeah, we do.
You think I don't know what I'm doing here? Some folks were like, didn't you just reinvent a bobsled? And others were like, put the skis lower, use a snowboard, put your pants back on, you know, stupid shit. So to prove you idiots on TikTok wrong, I decided to take my skiak up St. Mary's Glacier and show how this bad boy rips. But before I could do that, I had to figure out how in the hell I was gonna get this thing up 426 feet of elevation over 1.5 miles of distance. That's the equivalent of going up 639 stairs. And to make it harder, I'm just halfway through my recovery on my second ACL reconstruction. Now I'm looking more lopsided than a professional arm wrestler who's addicted to masturbating.
A bit forced.
You can learn more about how that happened in part 1, but let's just say I put on some weight.
That's relatable.
So I've never done this hike before, and I didn't fully know what to expect. Ideally, the path will be packed in smooth snow with fairly stable footing. And while there was no way I was going to carry it over my head the whole way, I definitely learned I am not strong enough yet. I knew this would be my biggest physical challenge since I had the surgery by a mile. But you know, I've been doing my PT every day and the knee's feeling pretty good. In fact, just a couple weeks ago, I advanced to being able to do these sweet little hops. It makes me feel spry as hell, like a little bunny. But then I go to work on my mobility, and I feel like I got the knees of like a hardened old rugby player. I'm beyond grateful for modern medicine, but sometimes this gets a bit boring. Like I mentioned, the ultimate goal is to take this down a 14er, like Quandary Peak Trail for example. I boot packed up with my snowboard back in 2020, but this would be a 3,000 foot elevation gain over 6 miles. A little bit more difficult. And in this current design of the kayak, it weighed so much that it broke my electronic scale.
No.
I lied. It was like 67 pounds. But after I tore my ACL for the second time, I knew I had to be proactive in battling off the dark thoughts. And one concept in particular that helped me was from Stoic philosophy, and that's the idea that you don't control what happens to you, but you do control how you respond to it. And I responded by signing up for some therapy. See this? This is the best knot. Bomber. Look at that. And this skiak was my other way of responding. I just couldn't bear the thought of letting another winter go by without doing something fun in the snow. Seriously. And just a side note, if you're a self-respecting adult, learn to tie a few knots. It's so useful. So useful. And this adventure was also the perfect opportunity to give me an excuse to buy a drone. And this was another way that I kind of held off the dark thoughts. I bought a drone, a PS5, and anything to fill the hole in my heart. So the drone I got here is the DJI Mini 3 Pro? I don't know. Either way, it has this awesome auto tracking feature. It's like straight out of Black Mirror or something. I mean, you highlight yourself on the viewfinder and then it'll just follow you around. It seriously feels like some futuristic shit, man. Towing it behind me like this worked great. The thing is, I had no idea just how much harder it would be to tow it uphill. There's this concept I learned since I moved out to Colorado. It's called Type 2 fun. I know what you're thinking. It is much different than Type 2 diabetes. Type 2 fun is essentially choosing to suffer for a while to accomplish something that you'll not only feel fulfilled and proud of yourself in, but often it has some sort of fun reward at the end. If we're mountaineering, this could be reaching the peak. If it's backcountry skiing, it's usually when you get to turn around and go back downhill. Or for the rest of you, like running a marathon, for example. Don't get it twisted, this is just classic fun. But that's where we're headed, St. Mary's Glacier. So, I think we have like 1.5 miles, and out the gate it's a little harder than I thought.
What is salty?
And now with each step, I get closer and closer to proving these idiots wrong, and that my skiak is going to perform majestically. Because having blind confidence in myself is one of my best traits. But it wasn't long before I called them back up. Alright, wait. I also needed to use this opportunity to test out some ways to share the load.
This is a three-legged race.
With how difficult hiking up Quandary was the first time, I knew there was no shot I'd be able to tow this thing up by myself. And that's yet another thing that I'm just so grateful for during this whole recovery process, is the support that I had from my friends, my family, my loved ones. I mean, I seriously couldn't imagine what it would be like to go through something like that all on your own. And here we are, St. Mary's Glacier.
Seriously?
Well, back to tugging. Not that kind of tugging. Tugging the boat. I know there'll be more tricky sections to navigate, like this little rock patch here. But typically when you get above the tree line, things tend to open up a bit into larger snow fields. So hopefully any patches like this will be short-lived. Hey, we got some blue skies, look at that. Beautiful. When I built this boat, it was always my intention to maintain the integrity of the kayak so that I don't put any extra holes or nonsense in it that would ruin it for the water. So this is a great opportunity to test it out. I mean, it is still technically water, right? It's made of water. I didn't get much purchase with the paddles on this ice, but man, she glides like a dream.
What an athlete.
But just above this lake, we finally had some clear, beautiful patches of snow to rip this bad boy down. It got a bit powdery up there, so had to strap on some big feet. And St. Mary must have been gassy or something, because the winds were just blasting between those mounds. Talking 20 plus miles an hour, easy. For our first test run, we're starting out a bit low. And one thing I realized is, since we're facing downhill, I'd actually need a hand to help hold it in place while I squeeze my tight little body into that hole. You may remember from the first video that I barely fit in this thing to begin with, and when I add in the harness, the snow gear, and some boots, I mean, it was a tight squeeze. If I were to roll this thing, there is no bailing out, that's for sure. I could just envision myself getting crunched in half if this thing tips. But that's not gonna happen, right? Right?
I think I can go higher.
Alright, yeah, we all know that was a little bit lame, but we're kicking it up a notch, don't worry, we're getting there. The further I go up, the steeper it gets here as well. So hopefully this will give me a bit more speed to work with. I also found this great little rock I could kind of perch the boat on horizontally, so that I could actually get in this time by myself. So now we're shooting for what's got to be about 100-yard or so run to the bottom.
Well, I didn't use the skis very much, but it's much less windy down here.
Alright, I was getting a feel for it, but I still wasn't able to turn. So with this being my third and final run, it was time that I finally commit. Alright, I gotta confess, it didn't work. It didn't work. You guys on TikTok were right, you know. The one time I leaned over far enough to actually dig a ski into the snow, it damn near snapped in half and flipped me over. So, it's back to the drawing board for me, I guess. But hey, what's one small setback when you've had 2 ACL tears? Oh right, and did I mention that I tore both of my ACLs? Right. So I learned I definitely can't take this bad boy down a 14er yet. But I'm gonna recoup, I'm gonna make some adjustments, and we'll get back out there. But what it was good for at least was cruising back down these trails easy breezy. Thanks for watching, please subscribe, and I hope you'll be back for part 3. Cause the next time I'm doing a damn skiak video, it's gonna be on a 14er. I'll tell you that much.